This video is part of a series of videos intended to give an overview of the forms used by the American Red Cross in our shelter operations. The daily shelter report is used by the shelter manager to provide his supervisor at disaster response or district headquarters with a snapshot of the shelter status. The daily shelter report provides information needed by operations management to plan for the future. The data contained in the report provides the DR or district headquarters with the information they need to chart the future course not only of this shelter but of the whole disaster. It's important to note that this form is not used to requisition anything. The 6409 and staffing request forms are more appropriate for filling your needs, and it's not used to describe problems or issues. The proper channel for these discussions is by telephone with your supervisor. This is the daily shelter report form. The top line is standard stuff, the date of the report, the disaster operation number, and the shelter name. Notice that the county is requested here. That's an important piece of information for the planners. The second box, shelter staff, starts with the names and contact numbers of the shelter manager and the assigned supervisors. We almost always work on 2 shifts a day, 12 hours each, a day shift and a night shift. But a DRO may have specific reasons for implementing a schedule of 3 shifts of 8 hours each, and this form accommodates that possibility. If you're on a 2-shift schedule, enter the manager's information, the day supervisor's information if one is assigned, and the night supervisor's information. If you're on a 3-shift schedule, again, enter the manager's information and the day supervisor's information if one is assigned, then the 2nd shift or swing shift supervisor's information, and again, the night supervisor's information. In the example here, we have a shelter manager, who is presumably the day supervisor as well, and a night supervisor. Finally, enter the total number of staffers assigned to each shift, and this number includes the managers and supervisors. This next box counts the Red Cross staffers who are assigned to the shelter from other departments or support services, such as DHS, DMH, DSC, casework, and feeding. The counts that are entered here are of staffers not included above. This is important. If one of the 12 staffers on the day shift in our example form is placed in charge of feeding, that person is counted among the 12, not as a separate staffer in feeding in this box. On this example form, the manager is indicating that there is 1 DHS person and 2 caseworkers assigned to the shelter who are not included in the staffing counts of 12 and 5 above. Next, the client population. This count is broken down by age range, which helps the planners gauge the future needs in this shelter. Our standard demographic categories are 0 to 3 years old, 4 to 7, 8 to 12, 13 to 18, 19 to 65, and over 65 years of age. And finally, enter one number showing the new dormitory registrants since yesterday's report. The operational reporting box is where you will enter numbers from 3 different perspectives. The first line is the number that you delivered or used today. How many breakfasts were served, how many lunches, dinners, snacks, how many cots and blankets are in use, and so on. These are the numbers delivered or actually in use. The second line is the counts available for tomorrow. Add together what's in use plus what you have available that's not being used. And the third line is the counts that you anticipate needing for tomorrow. Your supply on hand minus what new material you're going to need. This is your shortfall. Now, it's important to understand that this is not an order for what you need. It's a count to be used for planning. Let's take an example. In this form, the manager anticipates serving 175 dinners tomorrow. He has no dinners on hand, so he's going to need 175 from feeding. He has enough cots and blankets stashed away to handle tomorrow's new needs, but he has a shortfall of 50 comfort kits. And again, this is not an order for 175 dinners and 50 comfort kits. It's a prediction for the planners. In the notes section, add any additional comments that are needed to explain any of the numbers above. At the bottom, the name and signature of the person submitting the form, usually the shelter manager, although that task can be delegated to someone else. A final reminder, and sorry for the repetition, the daily shelter report is not for ordering services, products, or staff. This is a report of raw data that is going to be used by the disaster planners.